This is where it all matters, as the WCS circuit is quickly coming to an end, as in the next 3 days, we will find out which of our top 8 WCS circuit representatives are going to BlizzCon. Some will rise and some will fall here as we continue things on for WCS Montreal. A warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here to the stage, to the desk. My name is Kyle Lowis. I will be your host throughout the next 3 days, guiding you along the path as we find out who is going to qualify for BlizzCon. To my left-hand side, I'm joined by some dashing gentlemen, as always, starting with you, Todd, to get things rolling here. Back in Montreal, I know you love being here in Montreal.
A North American city where people speak French. If there were to be heaven on earth, I think this has to be it. I love this city, and last time the tournament was epic. I'm sure it's going to be again with all the stories that we have going to this one.
Yeah, I got the chance to watch from home Montreal last year. It was a very exciting tournament. Jeff, you're joining us here for Montreal. You excited for this one?
I am. This is the tournament that for a long time I've had my eyes on, because this is the final WCS stop, and it's got some brutal storylines, which is rough on the players, but for us as fans of the game, it makes it that much more intense. My dream final is someone like Showtime against, a Scarlet or something, a spicy Scarlet there. And they're both fighting for BlizzCon, and we just get to watch and wring our hands. I can't wait.
That's a really good point that you actually bring up, though, is that realistically, we have a top 8 currently going into the WCS circuit that is very kind of planned out. We know that the top 8 currently exists.
Yeah.
However, 5 of those spots are pretty much up for debate at the moment as we're coming into this tournament. And someone like Showtime, who Jeff just alluded to, is really fighting for a final, if not the whole tournament, to try and qualify, Todd.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of players like that. Like somebody that's currently even super low in the rankings can still go to the global finals through winning the whole tournament. It's going to take no less for a lot of them. And there are so many stories like this. Like Showtime's back on top. He won the European Challenger. You got like Neeb that just went 14-0 in maps in the North American Challenger, which was absolutely insane of a run. So all of these guys are going to clash there, and I really think that this is going to be some of the best StarCraft that we've seen in a long time.
Agreed. And speaking of Neeb, like, think about the spoilers that some of these people can play as well, where they are way up in the rankings. You're a Laser, you're a Neeb. Even Special is way up there as well. And they're pretty locked in to go, but each person they face, now it's a little bit kind of silly because obviously with StarCraft players, they want to win anyways, but there's going to be some extra gusto there where Neeb, he's just fighting for some, he just wants some more points. It's another tournament for him. But if he goes up against like a Showtime, and he could be like, well, if I can eliminate a very tough opponent like Showtime, then I'm going to give it some extra go. Yeah,
definitely. Of course, we have a big shout out to give to our sponsors that are joining us along for the ride here as well for WCS Montreal, in Asus, who joins us along with Blizzard as well to make all of this possible. So thank you very much to them as we continue on here for WCS. But this is the big one here in Montreal, because this really decides who is going to be going to BlizzCon and who is not. There are basically 5 main spots that are really open. Serral, even though he's not qualified directly, he's got enough points where he's pretty much 100% guaranteed to go through. But let's take a look at how WCS works as a whole here throughout the entirety of it. Over the next 3 days, we're going to have 3 group stages. In fact, all of those group stages are going to be played today. And then over day number 2 and day number 3, we will have a 16-man a single elimination bracket, I should say, all best of 5 and then a best of 7 final. And we've already been at a lot of stuff's happening, Jeff. 3 in total with some good champions, 2 in fact.
Yeah, we've had some great tournaments. I mean, an awesome story of Neeb, as Todd was talking about. Not only is he a 2-time champion, but he's looking red hot here as well, which is what you want. We are getting closer to that global final. I mean, that's going to be the main storyline for this tournament, but Neeb, your current kind of shield bearer, the champion of the foreigner scene, seems to be in form. And then it's always the question of, do we get, Special versus Neeb? Some of these amazing matchups that we have seen in the past. Serral versus Neeb is a good one as well. And there's just who's going to emerge from this tournament as the next player to really look at.
We talked a lot about Neeb there, but of course, Laser being the victor in Valencia. Very impressive stuff to see from Laser going into that tournament, Todd.
Yeah, he definitely stepped up his level in the last competition. He's one of those guys that's been working very, very hard, along with actually a lot of players that we have here, that have been going over to Seoul to train with the best competition. And it's just exciting times, I feel like, in WCS circuits. region, because all of these guys, they're really stepping up their play, and every single time you see new builds, new styles, and the meta is still changing here and there. Like, you know, the Protoss Mass Oracle meta, you know, some Zergs might hate it, but I find it pretty exciting to see these guys in action, so I just can't wait.
Even outside of WCS, we had Korea versus the World, where some other players emerged as well. I know that Kalizer was one of the only ones to pull off a pretty big upset.
He was the only one, actually.
In that part of it, yeah. We had some other good matches as well. Neeb came close there too, but enough about Neeb. There's some other guys. I mean, keep your eyes on Kalizer. He has been a WCS almost household name, where it's been kind of the story of like good, but not getting there. We've had a lot of players that way. Special, I think a lot of people would talk about as someone who probably could have been a WCS champion, but hasn't done it yet. Does he get it done in Montreal?
What about Cham, rank 9, and a very consistent top finisher in those WCS events? Like, if you at the start of the year you would have told me Cham's gonna be like this close to making the global finals, I would have be a little bit doubtful. Somebody like Haz, your favorite, he's ranked 16 currently. If he wins the whole tournament, he's going to the global finals.
Well, a lot of these guys were at Valencia, and in fact, we can take a look back at what happened in Valencia, just in case you missed it. A very Spanish feel here for the stop number 3 for the WCS circuit, live from WCS Valencia.
Special just taking charge of this game right now. So he's going to catch all these stalkers, though. He's just like, GG, nothing I can do there.
Both these players being quite resilient. And it looks like Snooty has just barely enough numbers to break through once again. He knows how to control it just right.
I think Kalizer has held the pressure. He's on the production of Masa. I think we might be seeing our Brazilian Terran move forward here. Not really sure what Masa's going to do.
But GG is called, and Masa has had enough. Kalizer will go on to the round of 8.
Smix, are you ready? We have a fantastic top 8.
I am, James. There's so many interesting storylines to go through today, but it all starts here with this Zerg versus Zerg.
And there we go, he's gonna go for it. There are enough Zerglings. Cyril here forcing True to make a big response.
And True may be over here about to claim victory in the round of 8.
Nurture's micro was really good so far, but Laser still has quite a few units here. Where are those reinforcements that Nurture so desperately needs? I think this is gonna be pretty much it. Nurture has to know it as well.
Neeb, he needs to defend right now there.
Special takes a staggering supply lead as he blows this Protoss army to bits. GG! Special defeats Neeb finally in the circuit event.
It's do or die, slate or be slate here. Snoot goes up against a Laser for this final.
Snoot taking a nice supply lead, Pig.
Ballsy maneuver there from Snoot, just moves right through the piles and rolls over the top there with that superior 4. He's going to try to break Snoot right now. Snoot desperately trying to wall off.
A Laser coming back from that 1-3 deficit to tie up this series. He has blown away the defenses of Snoot.
Beautiful play here from a Laser. Snoot here, he's trying to get this hatchery.
The hatch down to 50 hit points, 30. There's the transfuse. He's not going to be able to pick it up. That hatchery, a true nightmare for Snoot, coming back to haunt him as a Laser makes this push. He has ravaged the queens. He's killed the spine, and he's killing the Zerglings. Snoot dips below 25 supply, and a Laser has dominated the natural and will take this WCS championship. There is nothing left for Snoot. Congratulations comes out. GG! A Laser is your WCS Valencia champion!
That's right, a superb finish to Valencia in WCS as, of course, Laser takes the top spot there. So he gets an opportunity, guys, to go to BlizzCon once again and try and surpass the feat that he accomplished last year, which was a top 4, which was so impressive.
I think he's a more well-rounded player this year as well. I mean, last year he went into it with kind of a glaring weakness in the ZVT matchup. One of the worst games we saw at that last BlizzCon was him against TY, I think it was. But everything else was magical. He made an incredible run. He beat really good players, and he looked great. This year, however, his ZVT looks even better. We've seen some really strong ZVP and ZVZ play from him, of course.
Yes.
So he's going to be a great addition, and that's actually what's got me so excited is a lot of these foreigners. Sadly, not to always make it back about this, but Showtime is looking really good. He had a really bad year up until this point, but right now he is red hot. And if he's not at BlizzCon, that's going to be one of our best players not there.
And that brings us nicely on to Challenger, where Elazer had a little bit of a hard time this time, but as Jeff mentioned, Showtime really looked on point to the point where now he really is trying for that very top spot here in Montreal.
Yeah, Showtime, he struggled for a little bit of time. There was this one Challenger not too long ago as well, in which he lost to round 1 in the winners bracket, round 1 lower bracket. That was really weird. You know, you don't ever expect that out of him. He fixed all of his issues, I think, against Zerg in particular. He barely loses to Zerg anymore, and he just dominated the very stacked European Challenger. So it's great to see that. We'll see if that momentum continue.
Yeah.
I've been talking to him, and he seems still really confident against Zerg. So I hope to see that from him.
Well,
Oracle's a good unit.
Yeah, it definitely is. We've not only been talking to Showtime, but we have also been talking to some of our other Challenger players as they've been preparing here in Montreal, because it is do or die here to try and move on to BlizzCon for some of these players.
Welcome to Canada, everyone. It's Mel here, and I'm welcoming you to the practice session at a gaming cafe. There's a real buzz going amongst the players for this last stop of the 2017 WCS Circuit. It's going to be a real cracker, so let's get cracking. Bienvenue à WCS Montreal. So this is the last stop of WCS 2017 Circuit. How do you like being back?
I've actually done pretty well over on Canadian events in the past. Even Montreal last year, I didn't do that bad. I got top 8, so...
That's a result.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. So hopefully I can do okay this event as well.
I did hear that 2016 WCS Montreal, you won. You won it all. But this season has not been the greatest run for you.
I think foreigners getting so much better, very hard to make a living.
You're gonna be missing all these friends that we see at the back.
Oh, not really. My enemy.
You know, a lot of the pro players, they've been naming you as one of the top Zergs right now at the very moment. How do you feel about that?
I mean, it's nice. It's nice, but I don't really think too much about it. But yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, you're not gonna feel pressure just because people are telling you.
Yeah. I'm not too worried about it, and yeah, but it's nice that people think that I'm actually good.
But obviously, you've been doing well this season.
Yeah, it's been my best year so far. So pretty happy. Things are looking good for BlizzCon. I mean, I've got a lot of points. I'm ranked 6. So as long as the other guys that are lower down, they don't do too well, then I should be fine. But I want to get at least like a top 8 just to be sure.
Obviously, you come from Florida. You speak English.
Yep.
Yeah. What about French? Here is very French dominant.
No.
En français?
0.
You know any French?
Oh, yes.
Because this
I
is...
know.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. Bonjour. Comment ça va? Ça va bien?
Your pronunciation is very off.
Mal having a good time with the players.
That's pretty rich from Mal, actually.
Yeah, you
because
think
I was
so?
paying attention when he spoke French, and not too good.
Dude,
You
that
didn't
was
rate it?
awesome. So many good points in there. One of the ones that leap out at me is it's unfair how good Koreans tend to be at StarCraft, but also you got True busting out the best jokes. You got Mal being the most handsome.
That's true.
It's unfair.
Yeah.
I love the words from Cyril. I thought that was really inspirational. Like, it's cool to see him on stage busting out the "it's nice," but then when you pull him aside and you just strip him down and you just bare bones it, like Cyril, talk to me on a spiritual level. He's like, it's nice. Like to hear those words again, it's really nice. So that was awesome.
Well, I think one thing's for sure is a lot of these players mean business coming into WCS Montreal. And from one James to another James, we are joined by Mal over on the stage, who is also ready for the tournament. Are you, Mal? Are you good?
I'm good. I'm doing great, Claire. Thank you for asking. Do you remember the first time we met?
Maybe.
Yeah, I actually told you in the rehearsal, but I'm gonna tell you again. It's actually on a Canadian soil in Toronto event back in 2014. It was a really surreal experience for me. You know, James to another James, meeting such a world star, successful, famous James. It was unbelievable. Ever since meeting you, you know, I've dreamt of this day, of doing what you do on the stage. Stop interrupting me, man.
Sorry.
Doing this on stage in front of my home crowd. You know, as a Canadian, I was a little bit salty that last year I wasn't invited, but it don't matter anymore because what matters is that I'm here and I'm feeling very, very Gucci right now. So massive appreciation to the production for hacking into my dream, allowing me to make this weekend a part of my legacy. Now, to those of you that are tuning in globally, worldwide, welcome to Canada, welcome to Montreal, bienvenue à WCS Montreal. Thank you, great fans out here today. But this weekend, today marks the last weekend of the 2017 WCS Circuit. Today is very important because we will see who falls and who rises to secure and clinch their spots at most prestigious WCS Global Finals at BlizzCon in November. Yeah, no takers for BlizzCon? There you go, thank you very much. All right, so kickstarting us this weekend, it is uThermal and Jonsnow.
Mal flatters me. I don't know.
Yeah, it was very special for him to meet you. Yeah. I guess this first time in Toronto, but you meet so many fans around the world that you don't even remember.
Just another day for James.
That's.
I will say this though, for people that didn't see it on camera, James was turning red at birth, actually. But I mean, enough about that.
Of course, this match is important because for uThermal, this starts him on the road to try and put himself in a good point standing to maybe breach the top 8 here. As currently he sits at 1,200 points, so he needs at least a grand final spot. But even there, you could still have the top 8 kind of push him down if they're able to gain points as well, Jeff. It's important here for uThermal to start.
Racking, and it's a lot of that. I mean, uThermal was in the past the undisputed best foreigner Terran. I think that now he's in an interesting spot because I think we call special that player, but uThermal is still one of these guys who in some of these WCSs has been like, no, it's me, man, look at me, watch me play, and he's been hitting these roadblocks. Now in this first round against Jonsnow is one of those players where he's good, but he also doesn't have that result. So this to me is the story of uThermal. Like you said, he's in striking distance, he pretty much needs to make the grand final. That's a lofty thing. But Jonsnow is good enough to be a speed bump, so to speak, kind of a problem for him. So this will be a nice indicator of how hot and how ready he is.
uThermal's been having a pretty tough time in the Challenger, the European Challenger. He got close, like made it to the last round before the qualifying round like a couple times. But he's still an absolute killer against Zerg. Yeah. Now, anytime he's facing a Zerg, especially if it's not guys, like Snoot, Serral, or Laser, I would say he's going to be favored a lot of the time. So I would favor him very easily here in this matchup. And to go deep in the tournament, he's going to have to be on his absolute A game. And hopefully for him, he can have just that.
Real quick, though, I agree with everything Todd said, but a lot of that was off the Reaper, which now the meta has kind of settled. There still is the Reaper, obviously, in the TvZ matchup, but it's not as powerful as it was before. So uThermal, favored here, but maybe not off the combo that he was going for in the past.
There's definitely a different feel in the air here at Montreal, where as much as at the previous WCS circuits, these earlier matches, they were important, of course, to advance on, but not really as important as we're seeing here now in Montreal.
Well, this is reality hitting home. I mean, all those events were to be fair, just as important in a lot of ways, because if you did well back then, you have some of these guys, like in the Callizer interview, he's like, I'm in 6th place. I need to make top 8 to really secure it, but it's okay. He feels confident. Some of these other guys, a Showtime, a TLO, they're not in that spot. They're really good players, and they've worked really hard all year long, but there's a really crushing realistic chance that they'll be watching BlizzCon. They'll be watching their peers play, and they feel like they should be there. And that's that attitude that's here.
One thing to keep in mind is that we're in the new map pool with maps like Interloper, Acolyte, and Catalina returning as well. Group stage 2, I was looking at the groups earlier, is very, very stacked. I feel like from the group stage 1 is pretty straightforward, but usually you look at group stage 2, it's very easy to pick out which 2 players. But for example, just in this group here, we're starting with Jonsnow against uThermal. The 2 other players in that group is Harstem and Dolan. So it's really, really stacked, like to call out 2 players easily, like I guess if you had to name favorites, you say the 2 Dutch players, Harstem and uThermal, but somebody like Jonsnow or Dolan could definitely surprise. Nobody can be underestimated. So there is a lot more depth in the levels of a lot of these players, and it's going to be very interesting here already today from group stage 2.
So whilst you said that uThermal cannot underestimate someone like Jonsnow here in this position to try and gain himself points, he can't underestimate his entire group.
No, I mean, I think that's the beauty of this format is, like Todd was saying, in this second group stage, you are gonna get some pretty stacked groups. There's a couple that squeak through that are like, you know, I don't recognize that name. Tesla is in Group D or something like that. But what's kind of fun about that is they didn't just get here. They're not like plotted down in that group oh, you're just playing StarCraft. They earned it. They fought there and got there. So for me, it's always the question of, usually it's always been the question of like, who's gonna make their name here? But for this tournament, I feel like even that's a little bit more by the wayside. I'm looking at specific players. There's players that should be at BlizzCon that very well may not be, and that's what's so intense about this.
All right, well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll hopefully be checking in on some of the other games going on throughout the tournament group stage here on the laptops, as we have in the past here for the WCS circuit. For now, though, we're ready to go over to the commentary team for our first series of the day here in Montreal. Let's head on.
Good afternoon, Montreal, and welcome to everybody tuning in live and online to the StarCraft 2 World Championship Series final circuit event of the year. We're getting ready to go into our first match of the day. Roddy, what a good series to start this off with. To get some Terran versus Zerg, we get a Dutch player in here, and my boy Jonsnow, who's been in a lot of headlines the last month for some reason.
Yeah, what more could we wish for? A Dutchie, a Terran for you, and overall a really good matchup to kick off WCS Montreal 2017. Last year was a lot of fun, Nate, but I think this year it's going to be even better. We've got the lineup, we've got the storylines, we've got the talent. It's gonna be great.
Oh, we got it all, and we're gonna kick things off here on one of my favorite maps this season, Acolyte. In the top right position, we have the blue Terran player representing the Netherlands and Team Liquid. He is uThermal.
And in the left bottom side of Acolyte, we're looking at the main base of our North American Zerg representing Storm Gaming. It is Jonsnow. I like both these guys a lot, Nate. Obviously, I like Mark Sloppy very much. Since he's Dutch, he's just an awesome guy. Had a really good 2016. I have to say that I think 2017 has been a tiny bit disappointing for uThermal since he won an Intel Extreme Masters in 2016. His
performance in Shanghai last year.
Yeah, you kind of expect him to carry that on, and we haven't really seen him make it to the final or even a semi-final of one of these WCS stops. And I honestly believe that he's talented enough to do so. On the other side, you've got Jonsnow, who's just an all-around great guy, an excellent Zerg player. I really feel that he's someone that has been so close to breaking in that like legit top 3 of the NA scene, but you know, he just needs that one big, deep, magical run to truly mix himself in the discussion of the NEEP special.
When you talk to people about players like Jonsnow in the North American scene, he takes games off of pretty much anybody in these online cups. He is one of the players you don't want to run into early in a bracket, but these are the tournaments where you come and you're like, okay, he's here. Can he deliver? Can he actually bring that to the table against a player like uThermal, who comes in as a favorite, who's made more than a plethora of very deep runs in these tournaments, as we talked about his championships last year as well.
Yep, and in the past, sometimes we hop into a series, a best of 3 of group stage number 2, and we look at it as like, yeah, this is a great matchup, but both of these players should advance. That's not necessarily the case right now, Nate. This group is completed by Dolan, who's an all-right North American Terra player, definitely an underdog, but Harstem is in this group as well.
Yep.
Now, Harstem is one of the absolute best Protoss players that we have in Europe, fellow Dutchie as well, so this is a matchup that absolutely matters, because if you're either uThermal or Jonsnow, you want to get out of this group as quickly as possible.
You don't want to potentially end up, you don't want to have to potentially end up in either a rematch or that you get out of this group as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
So uThermal opened up pretty economically. That's one of the cool things about Acolyte. You have that backdoor base inside your main. Your third is also right down the ramp with a solid choke point as well. So this map favors very heavy economic play, pushes that late game to the extreme, and you still got your paths on the left side and the right side, both covered by Zalnaga watchtowers, a lot of rocks to break open for new paths, and a couple of gold bases. You can get a little bit of everything on this map, and I think that's probably why I like this one more than a lot of others.
I think this is all right for Jonsnow as well, though. I think this is a map in general where he should be able to have quite a bit of freedom early on to spread the overlords wherever he wants, get himself some good map vision going, start spreading that creep. I think that's incredibly important on a large map like this. And the harder it becomes for the Terran to truly start pushing the Zerg, the better this will get for Jonsnow if he can eventually get those 4 hatcheries up and running.
So that Zergling comes up right as the factory lands, but I couldn't help but notice as he starts his Hellion production, he's had 2 engineering bays already started, uThermal, in his base. He's playing a bit of a greedy build here, Roddy. He's saying, I don't need units. This map's huge. You're not going to try to attack me. This map is so long, there's no chance you'll try to bust me early on. And, well, Jonsnow's not going for that, so uThermal finds himself with a very greedy build. This could set himself up for a huge push once he gets a very fast 2-2 off his third base.
Yep, does obviously give a lot of freedom to Jonsnow early on, but it is important that the American Zerg just plays as greedy as possible himself right now. Start spreading those creep tumors and just pump out as many drones as you can. I obviously love the build that uThermal chose on this map. I just think it suits this map. Like, there's no way that he would ever do the same thing on a map like Catalina. Or...
I mean, this reminds me of watching like Innovation play Heart of the Swarm, where it's just like, yeah, 3 CCs, double engineering bay, every single game before I get my racks, don't care. And this map does allow that. The Overlords come in, you see the racks, you're like, is that super late? Where's the, he has the third command center, certainly. But you don't know 100% without seeing those eBays.
I mean, one of these 2 Hellions is running in as well, getting picked off here. I don't think a single drone went down there. I think Jonsnow knows exactly what he's up against without truly seeing everything. And right now it's just important. I would say throw down that fourth hatchery. Like, I know he didn't see everything, but Jonsnow is good enough to realize that.
I think you see how late those extra barracks are. It should tell you enough.
Yep, he made a couple Overlords. Makes life look easy.
Just get the evolution chambers, get everything going. The big bonus here for uThermal, since this isn't like a quick bust out of Jonsnow, is that he will be very far ahead in upgrades. Look at this. He's even got the armory coming in, beautifully timed. He'll be able to go right up. He's gonna have 2-2 before like the 8-minute mark, and that's gonna give him the potential to really get a lot of damage done if Jonsnow doesn't have a very good position to defend.
A couple of these pushes are going to be incredibly powerful for sure. But once again, Jonsnow has freedom. He has the ability to see this coming in time, just start spreading that creep and buy extra time. I think this hatch is, 5 minutes, 40 seconds. It's not late, but it's also, I don't think, as early as it possibly could have been.
Happy little Zergling slips through that wall on the left side, not completely blocked off there, it would appear. And the upgrade's just now starting for Jonsnow. The armory is ready, the upgrades are done for uThermal. The faster he starts that 2-2, the better position he'll be in when it finishes.
Damn, just made 13 additional drones. He's already up to 69 right now. A couple of them did pop, and he's getting a couple of spore crawlers as well. We know uThermal's an excellent Terran when it comes to multitasking. I always feel this is a little bit cliche, right? When you say like, oh, the Terran is so good in dropping, because obviously a lot of them are. But when you analyze uThermal, when you truly focus on where does he excel and what are his weaknesses, I think it's safe to say that a little bit of chaos is absolutely what he thrives in. Loves having like multiple dropships active at the same time, and loves trying to just find an opening in the defenses of his opponent.
Yeah, and he's already getting ready for what sometimes ends up being like that final stage of Terran versus Zerg, where you're just cranking out endless torrents of Marines and just making that big push, dropping non-stop. Because his 2-2 is coming in. He's got the medevac production on the way. We have him adding a ton more racks, building like, what, 12, 14 Marines at a time. And with that safety tank in the back, as he switches into Widowmine production, it's going to give him a lot of firepower to move out on the map without being too vulnerable to the counterattacks. But Baneling speed's on the way, Roddy. The Hydralisk upgrades are coming in.
You know what's interesting is that Jonsnow got all the tech, because I saw that he was getting a Spire, so he didn't cancel the Spire, did he? Can we just get that confirmed real quick? Maybe he did.
There's no Spire.
Yeah, okay, he had a Spire for a little bit, so I canceled it. He's like, nope, I'm gonna play Hydra Bane instead. So he was thinking about it, but he changed his mind. Let's see how it plays out. With Baneling speed already done, these first 2 medevacs really shouldn't be able to do all that much. But I think for uThermal, this is mostly just about cleaning up the map, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can't do too much here. The interesting part of this is that his 2-2 is just barely not done. So he's in this weird moment where it's just 1-1 versus 1-1, even though he'll have that second upgrade so much faster. So he can poke a bit, maybe try to focus right on a few Banelings, but you don't want to get caught by those Hydralisks. So the further you can pull off creep, the better, but no. Oh, well, there you go. Trades a couple of his Marines for a few of those Banelings, but needs to be very cautious about those Hydras getting close to his medevacs.
Good micro so far by uThermal, but this is also what we expect out of him. He's one of the best Terrans we have in the foreign scene, and he's not supposed to lose his Marines off creep just like that. So he's obviously distracting Jonsnow a little bit. He's like, hey, I'm being active, I'm being annoying. Now he's going to send a medevac with 4 Widow Mines into the back of the natural of Jonsnow, but we did see a couple of Spore Crawlers go down. Once again, good micro, gets a couple Banes. But this is not as big, Nate, as it normally would be, because this is such a rich economic game for both players.
Exactly, very heavy economy game, just because the way this map works, you have this 3-base setup. It's so nice. That 4th base is right outside the front. And here comes the mine drop into the natural expansion, that back pocket base. 3 mines, gonna kill a few, 2 drones, and just a couple of links. Final mine will do nothing.
And the medevac gets picked off as well. So I think in the end, that wasn't really bad for Jonsnow at all. Lost a little bit of mining time, but he's on 4 bases. He gets a medevac and 4 Widow Mines. I think he's okay with that. What happened with +3 armor, Nate?
Yeah, started his +2 armor a little bit late as well. Got a lot of medevacs for these like 6 Marines. He's waiting for the rest of his army up by that Zelnaga watchtower.
I do like the side that uThermal is pushing, because I think that's pretty much the easiest, right? He doesn't have to go up a ramp anywhere. There isn't that much creep. Jonsnow's already spreading out his units a little bit. This obviously is a moment where normally you'd like to fight with 2-2 upgrades against 1-1, but Jonsnow's going to try to buy as much time, I'd say.
That tank siege is up, immediately gets blown away at the front. The Baneling count isn't really that high at this point. If the Marines can get on top of the Hydralisks, this gets dicey very quickly for Jonsnow. He does have a few infestors here, but without that patching lands, you have to wonder how many fungal growths he'll have available.
The Baneling count is actually very low right now, Nathanis. He lost a lot of Banes off creep already. He went before the upgrades were done. Good dodges there as well by uThermal.
He gets a solid one on the south side, but if those Marines can get close to the Hydras and start to mow him down, he just needs to be cautious of those handful of Banelings trickling through. The drones being pulled off the line. Definitely not something that you want to have to do as Jonsnow. Another tank's going to come siege up, try to lock this position down, but the Ling reinforcements with the Hydralisks are going to push this back for now.
Damn, it's a hold by Jonsnow. It wasn't easy.
Some of those drones are still coming too.
Yeah, because I think he really got a little bit over-eager in the beginning. He thought he had enough there, but I think he should have just waited for the upgrades. But in the end, with a little bit of help of those drones, he did end up losing 9 of them, but that's okay. He had 71 left. He can always squeeze out a few more. I think stopping the first very scary, powerful push of uThermal was the biggest challenge. We have Kindness Plating on the way. No Ultras yet. But Jonsnow has one job right now, and that's just buy a little more time.
And he's got a very big, beefy army. Those Hydras have the power to push these forces away if they get a little bit too close. As long as he can keep a couple of Banelings to throw at him, and the Marines can't just jump right on top of him. And as you said, Chitinous Plating coming in, those Ultralisks, not as good as they were on the launch of Legacy of the Void Kev, but they're still pretty damn strong.
I still take him, Nate, with +2 armor, Chitinous Plating as well. I think they're going to have a pretty good time against most of these Marines and Marauders. A lot of them are low on HP as well. It got really scary for a moment because the Baneling count was suddenly so incredibly low, right? Like, he's in a lot of Banes.
Right as all those Ling reinforcements came out, as the Infestors had just barely not enough energy.
There are 2 Spore Crawlers still in the back of the Natural. uThermal is aware of those. That 4CC is a little bit late, though, for our Dutch Terran.
Yeah, he's taking that 4th base very late. The big drop's going to come inside this back pocket base once again. The Spore Crawler's doing a little bit to threaten this, but he sees the first Ultralisk come over to deal with it. 2 of the medevacs are going to escape. He's defending this 4th base that's under construction.
I kind of like this by our North American Zerg. I really felt that he has survived the scariest phase in the game. That doesn't mean that this game is over. He's absolutely not just going to run across the map and win. But he's gonna get Ultras.
But a lot of this game was pushed into that big 3-base push that uThermal made, and you pointed out that 4th base is very late. So as he's trying to take that 4th, Jonsnow's in a perfect position to get to work on his 5th base that he has. Still only 65 drones, but he has a very large army to compensate for that. So we'll see. It's not the super expendable army that like Ling Bane that you're only building. Those Hydralisks are meant to survive some of these fights. Those Ultralisks are certainly meant to survive as long as possible.
A lot of movement on the map now, Nate. A big army on the left, but there's a very big army on the right side of the map as well. So Jonsnow is gonna have to be a tiny bit careful about how he goes about this. Those are mostly Hydras, I'd say. Obviously a couple of Banelings in the mix as well. If Jonsnow can get the kill on the Planetary, that would be massive.
I love this. He tries to run the Banelings around the north side to kill the SCVs, prevent them from repairing. And that 4th base that we talked about, well, it was late, and now it's dead. So uThermal will be forced to lift off his main probably as that base mine's out, go over, and there it is. He's bringing it down. Spire on the way, and that's going to set up. So he's going to say, okay, do I need siege tanks to deal with this? What's the next step here? It could be Broodlords.
A couple of Hydras are a little bit misrallied there on the right top side. They get picked off immediately. This one Ultra was a little ahead of the Zerg party as well, and that one gets picked off.
And a lot of stimming here as well from uThermal.
Yeah. I think Jonsnow just has so much, right? He has so many reinforcements as well behind this. He's once again getting a Spire. I think there is a happy little Zergling being annoying at the Neo CC as well on the top side of the map.
Trying to take this base? How about no? Marauder shows up to get rid of that, but gets it dangerously low.
Still stalls it as well. I mean, look at the bank of uThermal. It's non-existent.
Every second is very, very big at this stage of the game, considering that that 4th base was so late, then it got blown up. And now he doesn't even have like the extra orbital or anything that the planetary defenses. That base that he's floated will be vulnerable for the rest of this game.
This is going to be very hard. I'm not exactly sure if you're uThermal right now, what is the move you want to make? What is the game-winning move you can go for? I think the best thing he can do is just re-establish his economy a tiny bit. I think he's worried about the potential Brood Lords as well. But I don't think he's in any position to really punish Jonsnow.
There's not much he can do about Brood Lords at this point because this army is still so dangerous. If he switches gears, he could get blindsided. These Ultra Parade comes through the line of sight blocker, pushing this army back once more. Only 3 medevacs to heal this way over stimmed army. He doesn't have the support that he needs. He drops another stim. Without any of these units really starting to connect with his army, Kev.
There is one Infestor right behind those Ultralisks, by the way. But during all of this, that new other 4th base got taken out. Or technically the 5th, but since one of the orbitals floated over, it's right now it is the 4th base.
That is the
Bongo connecting with the bio unit.
Oh, connects with the entire army up front. The rest of the units that were trying to defend that 5th base show up, but the SCV's been cleared out. The main orbital that floated is down, and GG is called. Jonsnow takes game number 1 against uThermal.
Damn, Nate, that was very impressive, very solid by our North American Zerg, who's showing us that NA is not that far behind compared to some of those top European players. And once again, this is a match that does matter because Harstem is in this group as well. You don't want to lose your opening match here in Group Stage 2. It's going to get very rough immediately. Obviously, the series is not over yet. I think Acolyte can be a tricky map as well.
If you want to be aggressive on the ground like that, Acolyte gives you the money to set up. The windup was good for uThermal because he was able to go double engineering bay before he even started stim. But making that long push is very tough, man. You give the Zerg has a lot of room to breathe, even without that creep spread.
And it's also just that the reinforcements for the Terran player, it takes quite some time, right, before they make it all the way from the Terran main to the right bottom side of this map. Because there was one moment where I think it was incredibly close, most of the Banes died, even the drones were being pulled.
Yeah,
and if on that moment, let's say uThermal would have every single Marina Marauder there that he has on the map in the right bottom side, he wins the game. But, you know, it takes a while, and obviously you can't stim your entire army multiple times.
On a smaller map, a push like that, you won't be able to be as greedy at the start of the game. But we kind of know uThermal for being that player that gets those pushes going, that tries to hit all over the place. But Acolyte's a great defensive map. We saw Jonsnow take advantage of that in a beautiful way, even though he didn't play quite as greedy as uThermal did. But I expect that things will heat up a bit faster in the coming maps.
I think even dropping on Acolyte is quite tough, right? Like, obviously, the pocket expand is a very obvious drop location that people like to go for, but...
And it's so worth it to just put in a little bit of extra static defense there. Like, we saw Jonsnow. He had multiple Spore Crawlers because that is the spot that you're going to get dropped, and all you have to do is invest a little bit more there than you normally would, and you're good. And you can have the rest of your army out in the middle between those 3 bases and bounce between all of them to defend the ground attacks.
As long as you have a little bit of map vision, as long as you have, you know, a couple of Overlords out there, a couple Zerglings spotting.
Watchtowers are very important on Acolyte.
Yep. So the series not over yet, but Jonsnow looking excellent here in game number 1. Jonsnow, one of the Zergs that in the past has often just made it through challenges, so he didn't even have to go through the struggle that is Group Stage 1 and Group Stage 2. This time he didn't make it. Had a pretty decent run though, but you know, the last WCS North America Challenge, it was just tough, man. You had Scarlet's Protoss showing up, and that doesn't make things easy.
I remember I was like, oh yeah, Scarlet's playing, all right, open the stream, check it out. I'm like, what is with the stasis wards? I've never seen this many stasis wards on a map before.
Yeah. Panda Bear Mia does not have very fond memories of that series.
Nope.
And even Semper as well, Scarlet playing some PvT. It's going to be awesome to see what she brings out this weekend.
That's like I came here, I'm like, is Scarlet actually going to play Protoss in this tournament?
In the past, I would have never said that's going to happen, but since he actually played really good PvT, which is a matchup that's normally so far out of our comfort zone, right? Like, that he's good in Protoss with Zerg, that doesn't surprise me.
That makes sense.
But that you're good in PvT, that's a little bit shocking. It's like, okay, you're for real. You're actually super good with Protoss.
Yeah, very tense, a lot on the line. You know, you have that potential. The dream is still alive for every player in this tournament. If you can make that deep run, if you can get that best performance that you're basically going to have in your life as, you know, a player like a Jonsnow, make it to the end, that golden pathway is still open to the global finals at the end of the year. Very, very tense. And players like Scarlet needing to make very deep runs, and uThermal as well. It matters for everybody here.
Yeah, I think uThermal can technically get second, but then he would need a little bit of luck with a couple of other people in the top 8 not scoring a lot of points. So in a safer scenario, it's just very simple. uThermal has to straight up win this tournament. That is obviously...
Pretty much.
Yeah, an incredibly tough task, but not 100% impossible because uThermal has won a tournament before in the foreign scene. And I feel there were from time to time, he was always on top of the European ladder as well. Europeans were in agreement that for a while he was the best European Terran player. Right now, you know, Hero Marine is suddenly looking incredibly good again, and there are a couple of others out there. It is possible, Nate, but so far not a good start.
Yep. We are loaded into our second game here on Interloper. Spawning in the bottom right position, leading the series 1-0. We have the American Zerg player from Psystorm Gaming. He is Jonsnow.
It's really good to see a player like Jonsnow having such growth over the last year and a half.
Yeah. It's nice to see these NA players come up. He's facing off against the blue Terran player in the Northwest, our Dutch Terran from Team Liquid. He's uThermal.
I think Interloper should be a map that suits uThermal a tiny bit better. I don't think he likes those massive maps in general. Obviously making a big push with a very strong economy behind it, it's cool and all, but once again, if I have to pinpoint uThermal's strengths, I'd say he thrives in chaos, and there wasn't much chaos.
It was a very straightforward macro Terran versus Zerg, and weirdly enough, that's not where you see uThermal making his bread and butter. And the recent patches of the game as well kind of hurt that, is because he was known as a player that was very dangerous on any map where you could go for Reaper builds, which have been slowed down a fair bit. I mean, you could still do it, but it's going to be nowhere near as good. If your name isn't Beyond, I wouldn't recommend it.
Maybe on a map like Catalina, but I don't think Jonsnow is crazy, and there is a good chance that that map was vetoed. I don't think we're going to see that a whole lot anyway until
it's
the
one of
best
his
of
weapons.
fives.
Yeah,
right?
it's one of his weapons that's been taken out. You know, it's not as good of an option as it was before. So he has to play a little bit more of that straight up play, which allows his opponents to just be more comfortable going into the series because they're not going to have to worry about it as much.
What are your overall predictions and expectations for the weekend? Because I felt like in Jönköping, we were all incredibly worried about the biggest TvZ festival of all time, and it didn't really happen.
No.
And then in Valencia, that was actually a little bit more of the case, you know. It's both Cerro and True making deep runs, and then obviously the final was TvZ between Snoot and E-Laser. So, and Nurcho obviously always having a decent run because he's Nurcho.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's a very weird thing to predict because when you look at the other players as this Reaper Scout comes in that we talked about. I mean, I just remember Montreal last year. We talked about how True comes in. It's like, yeah, you want to go to the finals? Okay, you have to win. You have to win this. You just have to just show up and win after not really having not being able to play all year. And his performance this year didn't really put him in a position to do that either. So suddenly he's back in that spot.
I do feel that True is always a dangerous outsider. A lot of people are even overlooking True at this point. Obviously, some fans will always believe in True because he's a Korean and they think that automatically makes him better. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I think some of the foreigners are underrating him a little bit. True is still very dangerous because he has great macro. He is very fast and he plays a little bit unorthodox as well. And once again, True desperately needs those points, man. He's on the cutoff seat right now, ranked number 8 in the WCS rankings.
The game has changed, Roddy. All year long, it was, okay, we're building this up, all right, Neeb with the first victory, Neeb with the second victory, and it grew. It was like, okay, we're getting some points here, some points there. You got 1 or 2 more shots, but this is basically it now. If you show up, if you are not already in a spot, if you're not within striking distance, you need to win the tournament.
Yep.
And it changes the way you look at things quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm having a good Protoss feeling about this weekend, as we see Jonsnow going up to 3 bases. Cloak Banshee is going to be the opening over here for uThermal.
What if there's a little bit of bait? What if he's hoping like an Overlord comes over and sees it? Because he's going for the medevac, so he wants to do the Hellion drop. It could still follow him up.
Yeah, he might just cancel it. But why does he have a tech lap on the, maybe a Raven behind?
Raven follow-ups aren't bad.
Yeah.
Or maybe he, okay, there's the cancel. I would have liked like a Viking into Raven is always fun.
I didn't actually look at that. I was like, he's getting cloaked. That's cool.
Maybe he was keeping it open in case he saw something. But it is the Raven follow-up.
I think he just tried to trick his opponent. I think he's spot on. I actually didn't see he was building a medevac. I was thinking about my Protoss fantasy of this weekend, Nate, because I have a very good feeling about Showtime.
I want to see Scarlet play Protoss now.
Well,
now that you've hyped it, now that I've watched it in Challenger, I was just like, this needs to happen in real life, you know what I mean?
I think Protoss is going to shine here in Montreal, but let's see. We've got 4 Hellions in the medevac heading towards the main base of Jonsnow. it is going to be greeted or spotted by at least one Overlord here. I'm not sure how many links. A lot of links are in the right top side of the map, actually. And I think these are links that Jonsnow could use at home. But obviously, if he gets a cancel on this CC,
and he does. He cancels the third base as the Hellions come in. 5 drones picked off so far. And quite a few more vulnerable, so uThermal's definitely going to get his money's worth out of this. A lot of drones have been barbecued in the main base of Jonsnow, and he's even following this up with another Raven, so the Raven harass is about to get real too. We're going to see a lot of drones die in the start of this game, Kev.
I think a few more can die on the low ground here because the Lynx were still a tiny bit out of position and the Queens are all in the main. He doesn't get any drones, just gets a couple of Zerglings. Obviously, the Ravens can start being annoying.
Oh boy.
So Nate, talk to me. How does this scale? Obviously, losing a CC is really bad, but losing 12, 13 drones could be even worse, right?
Yeah, it's so weird. I mean, he's going mech. Important to mention, we've got 2 armories on the way. So I guess the slow play on the third base being delayed, it hurts because of gas income, but taking the third that quickly is kind of hard to do when you're playing this style anyway. The Ravens are going to be designed to just keep him at home, that medevac threatening the main base. The most important thing he can do is just kind of slow down Jonsnow so that he doesn't just max out on like Hydra Viper and just, you know, kill him with abducts and blinding clouds. I don't really like mech on this map because there's a lot of narrow choke points, which makes things like blinding cloud very good. It can help the siege tanks, but moving through those points with your army becomes very difficult as well. And we see the Raven harass is just not going to stop. There's a lot of airspace to just hide stuff here.
Wow, medevac somehow lives, so these 4 Hellions are going to find their way into the main base of Jonsnow. Potentially a few more drones could go down.
So many drones died.
Yeah, medevac did get sniped in the end, and I guess these Hellions will get taken care of as well.
And then the other thing is the Hellions and those auto turrets still gain information. He sees, okay, yeah, there's your Bailey nest, there's your Hydralisk den. The Hydra Bane, if he builds like you get siege tanks and Hellions, like the Zerg player needs to adjust at that point. That's a very powerful anti-ground composition.
Jonsnow has not seen anything yet in the main base of uThermal, but this does not necessarily mean he doesn't know what he's playing against. He's obviously not crazy, and Jonsnow knows that
he's seen a lot of Hellions.
Too many Hellions have been built in this game. And obviously the Raven as well. It's kind of a little bit of a tell. How many drones have died? Must be close to 30 by now, right?
Got him down at 45. 23 drones destroyed this game, and using the Hellions, denying a bit of the creep spread as well.
Yeah, Jonsnow building quite a few Hydralisk already, or 46 drones. That is just not the economy that you want to have as a Zerg player. uThermal's had a great start, but I still think it's hard to close out a game like this with mech, right? You can't just run across the map with a couple of Hellions and expect to win.
He could, if he continues to slow him down to this point where he can't advance the tech past this Hydra lane, like he can open up a weird opportunity with like 2-2 and Blue Flame and a lot of Thors and Hellions.
That's still minutes away.
Yeah, I think this does become very difficult though once Jonsnow, if this game becomes even and Jonsnow's on Hive Tech with Vipers, like this map, there's just not a lot of open fields to spread your siege tanks out and go for big engages. So it looks like, so far, it's a bit of a Hellion Thor opening. There's Blue Flame, and this constant non-stop harass. This is what is going to set uThermal up to make a big 2-2 push.
Well, actually, Jonsnow is going to be the aggressor. He's had enough of this game. He's had enough of losing drones over and over again, but I don't think that he really has enough. That's quite a few Hellbats there. There are 2 Thors standing defensively as well.
Let's take a look. He's trying to break down the rocks. Can he take this fight? He might need to move. He's going to try to drop the Hellbats right on top of the Hydralisk, and he will do so. He needs to make sure that the Thors aren't shooting at the Overseers. Thors do 2-shot Hydralisk. He has the firepower to deal with this. But Queens are going to come up. There's the siege tank in the back, and that is going to be him pushing this away. These Hydras will not be able to break this position, even with the Queen support.
uThermal could potentially kill the rocks as well. I actually think that would be a very sweet play, as he's going to be able to cut off the reinforcements. A couple of Hellbats do fall, but in the end, you'd really expect uThermal to just have more than enough here. He could also pull some SCVs.
He's got multiple siege tanks. The biggest problem, actually, is the tank was sieged up over the depot, so he couldn't close it to push back. He does pull SCVs. He needs to get those tanks sieged. And the weird part now is that the Thors have been separated. He needs to use these medevacs and reposition these if he can.
One of the tanks did survive with like 5 HP though, and that's going to be very useful. There is a tank on the high ground too.
GG solved. He put everything he had left into that attack. And uThermal, with those siege tanks, with those Thors, was able to hold on and take game number 2. I love seeing those builds, Kev. I'm a big fan of Thors versus Zerg, especially against these Hydralisk compositions. It's only 2 volleys. You get those 2 Thors, it's just bam, bam, bam. You're knocking down those Hydras, no problemo, especially with that armor buff they got a few months back.
Yeah, definitely a game that felt a lot more like uThermal. Even if he busted out a little bit of a mech build, which maybe is not trademark uThermal, just the fact that he was able to kill drones over and over and over again. I was very curious about how it would play out early on, because losing that third CC that early on was obviously going to hurt the Terran.
But the Hellion drop set him up so well.
You look at the the worker count, it's like, okay, Terran is up 9 workers, and every time Jonsnow got close to closing that gap, he lost 5, 6 more drones, and it really stacks up.
Thermal's like, you canceled my third. Well, your third will never be saturated.
Yeah.
he did not saturate that game, so the next map, Ascension to Ire. Right. Not quite as condensed as far as the bases go. I think we'll probably see him go back to that dial play.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen mech, obviously. I mean, if your name is Gumio, you just mech
Yeah.
pretty much everything, I guess. But it would make a lot more sense for uThermal to play bio here. I think it's a little bit easier to find some openings
It's a solid
is.
mid-sized map,
Yeah.
which caters to that kind of aggressive playstyle moving all over the place.
It is wide open, but I think as long as uThermal can just contain the creep a little bit, snipe a couple of overlords as well, keep Jonsnow sort of in the dark, we all know that that's where uThermal shines, where he can just surprise his opponent over and over again. Once again, big series. Harstem is in this group as well, and Dolan. Dolan, one of these North American Terrans that has been steadily getting better as well. Not really a big name yet in the foreign scene, but not someone to take too lightly either.
Nope. But a good series to start the day with here. Some nice Terran versus Zerg. You get a little bit of your Parade push bio, you get a little bit of your Hellion play mech, and Jonsnow definitely putting up a good fight against one of the most popular European Terran players that we've had in the last 2 years.
Jonsnow does have pretty excellent Zerg versus Protoss as well, so even if he would potentially fall, if he would be in a decider match against, let's say, Harstem, I would absolutely not count him out. This is just a tough group, man. For group stage number 2, Nate,
I was gonna say, you have no idea who he would play in a final match, right? Because that, even a Harstem uThermal matchup gets very, very dicey.
Yes, those two have a couple of ridiculous series over the last few years. Either way, we are loading into Ascension to Ire. As we're looking at the main base of our Dutch Terran representing Team Liquid, it is uThermal.
As he faces off against this young American Zerg player in the southeast position, representing Psystorm Gaming, he is Jonsnow.
I'm gonna see pool before hatchery here, Nate. Jonsnow not willing to take too many risks.
Not a fast gas or anything, so he's just playing this one a little close to the chest, doesn't want to expose himself if something crazy were to happen.
uThermal is kind of a cheesy Terran, right? We know that he knows obviously how to macro and he's got great multitasking, but he's also not afraid to proxy a couple of barracks here and there, especially not in game number 3 with everything on the line. And Jonsnow wants to make sure that he wouldn't get surprised here by some proxy rack shenanigans, so plays it safe.
Yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. Meanwhile, uThermal looks like he's just going to be very, very straight up. He's not going to go for the Reaper, so he's going to get a little bit of a faster factory behind this. He's almost going to maybe feel like one of those old school reactor Hellion expands, perhaps. He's liked his Hellions, even with the bio opening on Acolyte.
And since in the last game he faked the Cloak Banshee and didn't actually go for it, there is a small chance that this time it might actually be for real. That's what Terrans sometimes do as well. They test the welders and be like, hey, you know, I actually tried to trick you out. You didn't even scout. Fine, next game I'll really show up with some Cloak Banshees and see if your Spore Crawlers are ready. Look at this little Marine. He's on a mission. He's going to be able to find the Overlord, but a couple of Zerglings are heading in that direction as well.
Oh, so close. Wow.
I think going back is better.
The Lings would have eaten him anyway.
Would eat him? Yeah. Damn, Nate, so visual.
When I think about Zerglings killing me, what do you think, to leave the body there? No, come on, man. They definitely eat you. That's an awful way to die.
I just think about like the tapping sound. That's all I hear. Bloop, bloop.
No, they don't just tap you to death and leave you there. That's not what space aliens do. So he does have the factory on the way with the reactor, and this SCV, he hit as long as he could. He lost the game of hide and go seek. As the Marines do push these Lings back off of the natural, that is finishing up for our Dutch Terran player. They'll probably go for the starport after this. So the question that I ask myself then as a Terran in this situation is he going to go straight up with the Hellion drop again? That can work on this map. Is he going to finally go for that Banshee opening that he faked last game? Or will we see something like just Viking into Raven, or maybe even just one Viking into a normal medevac play? Well,
yeah. Well, we're going to perhaps potentially see that mine drop. I mean, I remember a discussion that you had about the mine drop, Nate, a couple months ago with Major, who's a big fan of it, special that is. Some Terran players love it, some Terran players still not totally sold on it.
I've never been big on the mine drop.
Yeah, but, you know, I was feeling the same until very recently. I casted a game at the Inter Extreme Masters in Shanghai, and we had our Chinese Terran Time playing against Su. And he went for a Mind Drop and a pistol, and it's like one of the most impressive games I've seen all year, Nate. Like, he lost like 7 units and he killed like 95, and Su just tapped out. I was like, oh my God, he just like, he started off with a Mind Drop and it never stopped.
Watching Terran players that are good with Mind Drops is like, it's just like watching someone who's really good at gambling. You're like, man, that looks so fun. And then you try, you're like, no, this isn't good. I never want to do this again. It's a bit too risky for me.
Well, we're gonna see 2 Hellions being produced at first. It's gonna be a matter of fact, well, there's still potential for uThermal to follow it up with something else. The Ravens were obviously very successful in the previous game, but squeezing out 2 Ravens if you want to play bio is, in general, not done.
It slows down your ramp up a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, all that 400 gas could very easily be your 1-1 and your armory starting up much sooner, or your stim pack, whatever you want.
You know, before the action truly kicks in, once again, the Cloak, I said it right at the beginning of the game, this time he is going to follow it up with Cloak Bench. In the last game, he tested the waters, and he's like, well, you don't want to scout? That's fine.
It still leaves the game wide open, too, as to what his follow-up could be. It's an armory, but is it... If it's
could
just,
also be for Hellbats,
yeah,
right?
if it's one armory, it can just be a Hellbat push. But he is taking more gas at the same time.
These queens are in a beautiful position, so uThermal's going to be...
Well,
he's going to actually unload all the way over here.
Okay,
the mine is going to at least be able to connect with the queens. No, it's not. Shoots at the Zergling.
Well, that went about as bad as it could have.
Yeah, that's actually 2 or 3 dead Marines, right?
That attack is... He's like, yeah, I lost my Lings, but your attack is done. Okay, the Hellions might be able to get something in here. There are Zerglings. Are they going to body block? Yep. And he's just going to turn around. Okay, so he doesn't
now this push on the top side is just not that scary, though. I mean,
the
2
Marine
Marines.
harass. 2 brothers fighting a queen.
Eventually, they might be able to pick up 1 queen, but it's just going to take a long time. The mine is still active as well. But there's only so much that a single mine can do here. Maybe he can get the queen.
If he clicks the queen. Nope. Okay. Well, he's got the Hellions to back up these Marines now. Just those 2 Marines actually really
the other
help.
units are out of position. They're still all the way at the bottom side of this ramp. So a couple of drones will go down, but in the end, pretty quick surround on these Hellions. And I kind of like the way that Jonsnow has defended this.
He gets a little bit of a recovery. We are going to see a little bit of more of a mech focus still this game. A second factory has just finished up. +1 vehicle weapons is on the way. So maybe a little bit of like Banshee, Hellion Cyclone, or...
Well, Cloak is done, but there are Spore Crawlers in the main base as well. uThermal's going to be very sad to see that. He's like, oh, come on, last game you had no spores, you didn't even scout. This time there are going to be spores. The definition of never lucky.
Yep. I do love the Banshee position between the bases as these Hellions have been skirting around.
Cyclones,
and Medivac saying...
by the way.
Yep, he's going to go for Hellion Cyclone. Very strong with that +1, but actually his +1 won't be done before the +1 is done of Jonsnow, so the window's not super big here.
That is a lot of
Hellbats
Hellbats.
in general are very strong because that Baneling Nest isn't done yet.
Nope, there's a lot of Zerglings on the other side of the map as well. Obviously, it's not something that uThermal could possibly know. 1 queen is going to fall to that Banshee as well. This is a push that has a lot of potential, but uThermal doesn't know what we know.
He needs those Cyclones to help break through the Spore and help deal with the Queens.
Well, there's still Lings on the left side. They're morphing Banelings now as well. I'm not sure if those Banes are morphing on the other side of the map. Now, they're morphing at home, so they are being defensively. A couple of Lings are going to try to cut off the reinforcements and cancel that turret CC. But I feel that uThermal's too hesitant with this push, right?
Yeah, he's not seized an opportunity. He's now starting that other command center, but you talked about that harass
Lings,
back there.
the Lings are still being active.
And his third is not being worked on right now.
I mean, in the end, these Cyclones and Hellbats are going to be able to keep this command center sort of safe, but it has been delayed, and I truly felt there was more potential in that push than uThermal eventually got out of it.
Yep, he was not able to make much of it. I think the only thing he's got on him is what, the 4th base is a little bit later now, like that's maybe it, but he still has the potential to hit him with a lot of Hydras and Banelings as he gets that Hydraless Den finished up.
uThermal's going to try to test the waters one more time, but he's going to have to be very careful.
There are Banelings now, and that's...
Yep. No Baneling speed yet, though, so that is at least something that shouldn't be ultra scary.
He doesn't have the Servos upgrades not in the game yet, Roddy. But if he can snipe this turret, he's just going to spread the Hellbats out in front of the Cyclones, let the Cyclones focus down the hatch. I think if he focused it down and killed it, that'd be really nice. He's going to try to fight against the whole entire army, but now the Queens are here. And okay, if he cleans these up, then the transfuses won't be able to be used in the hatchery.
Yeah, a couple of Hellbats did just die there, though. A couple of Lings being annoying in the natural as well. Lings are everywhere. Let's take a look at the hatch. The hatchery did go down. Wow, there's so much energy on these Queens, Nate. That was never supposed to happen, I feel.
He definitely had enough energy to go for a transfusion. Yeah. Maybe he was microing the Lings across the map.
I think that is exactly what happened, because I didn't even want to hype up the potential hatchery kill, because I really felt that Jonsnow had all the tools in place to actually keep it alive.
Could have easily healed 300 or 400 damage on that. And the Lings are going to go back towards the 3rd base. And now Jonsnow's in an awkward spot because you've got uThermal who has these Hellions, who has these Cyclones. I think it's very important against this to also get that next Carapace upgrade if you're Jonsnow.
And I would say if I'm in uThermal right now, you just keep on trading, right? Just keep on going for it, because Zerg has a pretty rough time right now. They don't have the economy that they want to have.
Oh, yeah, just keep hitting them.
Yep, just keep hitting them and make sure they can never get that true economic state that they want to be in, which is like 70 plus drones spread over 3 or 4 bases. I'd say taking it slow right now is not what uThermal should be doing, but perhaps he wants to go for a game-ending push with a couple of tanks as well.
A lot of Cyclone builds do turn into that. I mean, if you can limit the creep spread a decent bit, and he can get up nice and close with a handful of siege tanks, you don't have an insane and overwhelming force since that third base was killed to actually mop up that big attack. I mean, if he waits for like 4 siege tanks and tries to do something crazy, opportunity is there. A couple Banelings being morphed to do a run by, but Jonsnow's gonna have to scale the wall first.
At least gets 2 SCVs there as well. That's more than you normally get.
It's something.
Yeah. But obviously it's not the jackpot that Jonsnow was looking for, who played a very solid game number 1 on Acolyte. Game number 2 was a little bit rougher, as he was never able to get in the position he truly wanted to be in. And here in game number 3, it felt like he was doing all right, had a couple of good moves with small counterattacks as well, but losing that hatchery just kind of ruined all of his plans. And I look at this army, Nate. I mean, Hydra's on Creeper obviously very powerful, but it will all come down to the engagement. Yep. And so far, I don't love this engagement of Jonsnow, as he loses a couple of Hydras before the battle even truly starts.
Needs to be very cautious. Just watch out for the spread on the rest of these units. The Hellion count's quite low, so as these Lings come closer, the Cyclones won't be able to deal with those very well, of course. They're not as good at the scoot and shoot as these Hydralisks would be, so he's gonna fall back now. We have the Thor production kicking in, getting more Hellions. Did he get Blue Flame? He hasn't started Blue Flame yet, right?
Did you see how derpy that tank was? The tank is like, could potentially shoot at like 4 or 5 Hydras. Like, no, there's a Zergling running forward.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot on that link that's on top of my helmets, because that single link could have potentially killed at least half the army.
That's why you don't doubt yourself, you know? You gotta pick your target and shoot. Yeah.
Cyclone gets picked up in the middle of the map as well. +2 missile attacks is more than halfway done. At least Jonsnow, I feel, is getting himself in a very playable position again, especially with the siege pick going up. Obviously, fighting off creep is a completely different ballgame than on creep, especially against these Hellions, these Cyclones, these tanks as well with Hydras. So I'd say that Jonsnow should probably just stick to defending, right, and make sure he doesn't take more economic damage.
Yeah, the fact that there's not even a hive on the way leaves these siege tanks in a very powerful position against this army. If he can make a good big push, he won't have to worry about Abduct, Blinding Cloud. I love, he leaving the Hellbats with that command center, because he's like, you know what? I know that you're actually so good, you're going to send units to harass the space while it's building. Okay, you want to build Hellbats? Let's play ball.
Jonsnow instead is going to go for a couple of Banelings in the left bottom side, but those Banes, they might kill the Hellbats, but they definitely won't kill the CC. Maybe at best he can get the Hellbats and maybe the SCV that's building that command center, but I don't think he can hope for much more. As, yeah, you should be able to get the SCV there.
Oh, he tries to split the last second. There's still enough Banelings to kill everything, but...
Well, that Hellbat is like, guys, you know, they gave me a job,
man.
They gave me a job, and I got the job done. Keeping it alive, I'm still standing here strong as well. At least Jonsnow is buying a little bit of time for himself. 8 Swarmos after that infestation pit finished up. And that could potentially be what he needs here. But it's gonna take a little while before those Swarmos are out there.
I mean, there's so many. He needs to kill the Hellbats at the Banelings if he wants the Swarmos to break this, though. Blue Flame Hellbats straight up against the Locust can clear a wave or 2, which can be enough for him to push through this 4th base. The question is, how slow is uThermal gonna take this? The more time he gives Jonsnow, the better.
I love this spread over here by uThermal as well. A couple of units all the way on the left side, potentially make it hard for Banelings to just A-move. Jonsnow still having minor counterattacks. Here comes that first wave of Locusts, and he's going to go with all the Banelings and Hydras as well.
Yep, just going to try to overwhelm this army in one fell swoop. He clears out a lot of that first wave, but the Hydras behind it are what's really getting the damage done. And now that the Hellbats have been cleared out, the Lings get on top of the Thors, and the Hydras will clean up the rest of the push.
That was a really good hold by Jonsnow, saved by the bell, I'd almost say, as things are starting to look incredibly dicey, but those 8 Swarmos pushing that mech army back. A lot of Blue Flame Hellions getting on top of these Hydras right now.
These situations are where that sort of mass Hellion play is extremely powerful, but he needs to be cautious of the spread. He needs to keep in mind that Hellions actually don't do a whole lot of damage versus the actual swarm hosts themselves, so killing those is still going to be a huge pain in his side.
Yeah, the next wave of Locusts is about to get ready as well. They're going to chase down these tanks. A couple of Hellbats are here to at least save the day for these tanks. As in the end, I think only 1 or 2 units went down there. The tanks are still alive, so that's the most important thing. But uThermal suddenly in an awkward spot, right? He's down 40, 50 army supply. Now, that often happens when you play against Swarmos. But how is he supposed to be aggressive again? He's not
You need
that rich.
so many Hellions to deal with this, and the Banelings do not take the bonus damage from them, so as long as they're on top of the Hydralisks, it's very difficult to dive on those, but you're going to see the Hellions have found the Swarm Host.
Wow.
Is he going to be able to pick them off?
He's going to be able to trap them, Nate. I mean, a couple of Locusts are obviously going to be able to do quite a bit of damage on these Hellions,
It'll
but the
only
Hydras...
take like 50 shots for these Hellions to kill the Swarm Host. The only unit that can catch them can't really kill them, you know?
He gets one there in the end, but in the end, that final wave Locust is way too big. And obviously, the Hydras were there to save their friends as well.
Just hanging out, you know?
At least that is a useless wave of Locust for a little while, so uThermal's not going to end up losing too many units against this. And he does have those 3-3 vehicle weapon upgrades on the way. But it's rough, man. I really kind of like Jonsnow's position, especially if he's going to be able to establish.
The Hellions are the most important unit you have right now as a Terran, because if you do not constantly push these Swarm Hosts away, even if you can't kill them, then as soon as they throw one wave, it's like, boom, your command center, he's gonna snipe that planetary in 3 seconds. Like, if he doesn't have everything here, we'll just die.
Swarm Host count is currently 15. That is obviously pretty damn high, but it also means he's going to be able to get a lot of Locusts. This is exactly what you were talking about. The planetary will perhaps live for a little while longer as there is a mass repair going on. A couple of tanks do get a couple of great shots off on these Hydras as well, but that additional command center did get sniped.
Yeah, this is really nice though. He kills all of the Hydralisks with this army, and I mean, Jon Snow's still a rich boy, right? He's got his bases together. He's got the money. We see that he's still keeping a very high supply count, rebuilding those Hydras, and those obviously those Swarm Hosts maintain a lot of that supply. But that's what the Hellions are good. You're trading 100 mineral units and no gas for those 75 minerals at 50 gas Hydra. It's a very, very big deal.
I mean, getting the snipe on that potential 5th base is obviously awesome, but uThermal's just going to float over his main base for a little while longer. This time, Jonsnow should be able to get at least 1, if not 2 siege tanks. It's going to be 1 for now, but he's got way more Locusts coming in. He's going to be able to connect with a couple of these tanks on the top side. That is a few dead tanks. So that was nice. I mean, he's just trading 3 units for actually pretty expensive units.
Those situations get so weird because the Hellbats can deal with the Locusts pretty well, but the siege tank friendly fire when the Locusts drop onto them actually kills the Hellbats faster than the Locusts would. But keeping the Hellions out of the map, it's the most important thing to do. You can see that production tab. That's where uThermal's money is going. It's this weird situation when you're playing mech where you actually float gas. You're like, well, this is never supposed to happen. Like, this is what happens when Swarm Hosts start to run rampant. If you can't deal with the Swarm Hosts, the only unit that can stop those Locusts effectively is your Hellions, and they can't invest into late game tech that's going to get him much more unless he walks into the siege tanks.
Wow, that's a lot of Locusts coming forward, a lot of Banelings rolling forward as well. A couple of Hellions very clumped up, so these Banes actually get good connections against Hellions, not something we say every day. Jonsnow still very close to maxing out, and uThermal's supply is starting to look quite sad, Nate. It's only 56 right now of workers, 67 army supply. That's probably not going to be enough against the next wave of Locusts.
Yep, the toughest part of this, you need Hellions. They are the best unit against this, and he has not been able to maintain his economy enough to build something else with that can supplement against this, like I mean, I would say Thor's. I mean, he's relying on siege tanks, which can help defensively, but you are never leaving your base without those Locusts just swinging by and blowing it up if you're playing with this many siege tanks. Like, I honestly don't even know what he could do at this point. Try to switch into Ravens, but he doesn't even have enough minerals to do that.
The tech switch into Swarm Hosts this game was absolutely ruined by Jonsnow, and the timing couldn't have been any more clutch, because when that army was marching across the map the first time, it looked very, very grim for that Hydra Bane army. But right now, the Swarm is massive.
Fred, this is disgusting. He just completely envelopes this Terran army, the siege tanks being battered away, and as that Hellion shell gets broken down, that's it. That's your last defense. He could just build another wave of Lynx, go in with his next wave of Locusts, and just kill him because he's got nothing against this. Yeah, he's like building Vikings. He's like, oh, but Broodlord's going to show up. He's like, well, that doesn't matter at this point.
The biggest problem is that uThermal hasn't been to the other side of the map for quite some time as well. That's when you always know a game of StarCraft is just not going your way anymore. When there is no ability for you to be aggressive and there is just nothing that you can really do to do some serious damage on the other side of the map, how are you supposed to slow your opponents down when he's slowing you down over and over again and you can't make it past the halfway mark of this map?
Yep, and he's done a great job now. We can see that Jonsnow's keeping the Lings and the Hydras and the Banelings with the Swarm Hosts. We're saying even if your Hellions find them, we're still going to trade against that, and then these Locust wave will come over. He's going to pop this wave of Locusts, and if he doesn't have 5 siege tanks on the base is dead.
A couple of Hellbats are going to fall, a few more tanks are going to go down as well. And this orbital is probably even going to take quite a bit of damage. It's going to be repaired in time. Just, I
mean, there's just not enough money. Like, there's just so few options available to uThermal at this point. Jonsnow's eating up the map. He's getting another couple of Swarm hosts to mix into this army.
Damn. Would you say it's a surprise, Nate, if Jonsnow takes the series, which obviously it definitely seems like he is going to here?
It's very impressive play. I'm surprised. My first thing I would say is I'm surprised that uThermal went back in 2 games in the series. That Cyclone Hellion play doesn't transition as well as that Mass Hellion double armory play does.
I mean, it looked excellent on Interloper, but obviously essentially, I mean, I felt that things were going all right after he got that snipe on the hedge, which I still think he was not supposed to get, but he was able to get it there, and I felt at that point on,
for sure.
uThermal was obviously in a decent position, but those 8 Swarmos that
It's all about how you
produced,
handle. Yeah, it's all about how you handle the first wave of Swarmos. Because he was out on the map, and the Swarmos were able, with everything else, to kill the army, it changed everything. If he was able to keep most of that army at home and defend against the first wave of Swarmos and then use his Hellions, like, he could have done so much more. But Jonsnow, he's able to just batter him away. He's going to keep throwing these waves of Locusts, and no matter what uThermal does, the absolute best he can do is survive for another minute or 2 with each one of these pushes if he plays well. But there's no opportunity for him to cross the map.
Exactly.
What is he going to do when he reaches there with, what, 4 or 5 siege tanks, 10 Hellions, and then 40 Locusts just drop on his army?
Yeah, uThermal
You can't kill the Swarmos. They're armored units. They got 180 health. Like, no, Hellions aren't killing these things.
A couple of Hellions will at least roast a few of these Lings. A few Hydras are going to go down. The biggest problem is, though, Jonsnow is not just on 5 bases. He's not just on 6. He's on 7 bases. Obviously, the first 2 are kind of mined out. But he's got everything going for himself. He can lose 20, 30, 40 Zerglings, and it doesn't bother him at all because he's just been able to macro up freely while still doing serious damage on the other side of the map.
Yeah, he stepped in just to kill those changelings and backs off, and he surrounds, okay, get one of the Swarm hosts. And another wave of Lings hits that south side, almost getting the tank. And this is it, he's gonna keep battering away at him. He's getting more upgrades for those. We see the siege tanks shooting the Hellions as well. Some of these waves of Locusts not really doing as much as they could be. And there you go, boom.
Even if all the Hellions are in position, it's still a dead tank, and the other tank is on half HP right now, which means the next wave of Locusts is probably gonna be able to pick it off. This is just a frustrating game, and it's safe to say that if for uThermal, if this was a ladder game, he would have tapped out a couple minutes ago, realizing that this is just not going to work. Obviously, in a pretty tough group here at WCS Montreal, you want to fight, you want to try to make a miracle happen. But deep down inside, I think uThermal knows that he's fighting a battle that's going to be incredibly tough to win.
Yep, the Hellions are the only unit that's very strong in this situation, but he
does
doesn't
still have
the
income.
economy.
I mean, he's actually not
Well, the
mining.
thing is, he's not mining any gas because
No,
he was banking gas because he was only building Hellions for so long. But he's still just got tanks, which are still not good against Swarm hosts.
But I guess as long as you have 1800 minerals a minute, is it fantastic? No, absolutely not. But it's something. He's not broke as a joke.
It's a slow bleed, Kev.
Yeah, I guess.
He would need Jonsnow to make a really, really big mistake. But the thing is, what Jonsnow's throwing at him is mostly minerals. Like the Hydras that he gets, those are the units he really doesn't want to lose. But if he just keeps throwing Lings at him while he takes these bases, builds up those upgrades, and gets his tech, he doesn't have a whole lot to worry about.
Would you like to see a couple of Vipers, or do you think that's just not necessary?
I mean, if you got Vipers, the game should just be over. There's no anti-air. It's just tanks and Hellions. You think he built like 2 Vikings and they died, but. And the Hellions come up front again. He sees this base, but it's like, okay, he can't kill the Swarmos. The Ling Bane comes, pushes him back, and then he's going to step forward again and maybe grab a few more units, and then the Swarmos will show up again. And the more time that he spends out front, then the closer he gets to the Locust just going around the outside and dropping a wave of Locust on one of his other expansions.
uThermal doesn't even know about this base at like 12 or 1 o'clock, by the way. He has never seen that base. And Jonsnow has been steadily mining of it for a couple of minutes. This is another massive wave of Locusts. A few more Terran units are going to fall. And once again, uThermal is going to have a harder and harder time replacing these units.
The thing is, you're like, oh yeah, he defended. It's like, yes, but he still lost about half of his siege tanks. Those are the units that have to kill the Swarm hosts. Assuming the Swarm hosts ever get in range of the siege tanks, which they shouldn't.
I mean, there's a small chance that maybe uThermal can get a hatchery kill here before the next wave of Locusts is ready. But even if he's able to get one of these hatcheries, Jonsnow is going to be like, so what? You know, I've got 3,000 minerals in the bank. I'm mining on the top side of the map. I've got all these bases up and running. And a couple of those bases he took on the right top side.
Oh.
He didn't even take that long ago, so there are plenty of minerals left.
They did actually kill some of the Swarm hosts there. He's got this push up to this south base like you were talking about. But the Locusts clear out that middle base. He forces the lift off. He has Hydras, he has the Queens here as well.
Something, I mean, I must say it's remarkable how uThermal is sort of hanging in there. I know you said it's a slow bleed, and I know a lot of people say he's just, you know, he's just delaying the inevitable. But I have seen crazier things in life, Nate. At least he got a hatchery there, and you know he still has
We
a
have
lot of minerals.
witnessed MVP versus Tefl. Anything is possible.
And I mean, don't forget that this base, for instance, in the left bottom side is full, right? Like uThermal can mine from this forever. I think even that base that he just kind of temporarily gave up in the middle of the map, there's plenty of minerals left. Like, it's absolutely not looking good for him, and I still think this game is obviously Jonsnow's game. But uThermal's definitely fighting his heart out.
Yeah, he definitely put up, I would say, as good of a fight as you can once you're behind against this army. But when you get behind versus Swarm Host, it just
has to be.
It just compounds on you so fast. The Banelings finally get the connections on those Hellbats. GG is called. Jonsnow takes the 2-1 victory over uThermal.
Well done by Jonsnow. Excellent start for him. And once again, this pretty tough group. There is a good chance that Jonsnow is going to have to fight another Dutchman on his way to group stage number 3, which is the round of 32, as Harstem is in this group as well. I'd say a small surprise, Nate. I don't want to call this a shocking upset, because then I really feel like I'm underselling Jonsnow, which is one of the most solid Zergs we
You
have.
have to give credit to the very well orchestrated breakdown of that mech push that he made in that final game when he was able to catch him there, because I honestly think even with the Swarm Host cleaning up uThermal's army, if he's able to get that base killed as the Swarm Hosts come out, he still slows him down enough that maybe that next wave of Swarm Hosts that breaks him down helps a bit more. But it's time to hear from the man himself on the main stage with Mal. It's Jonsnow.
All right, Jonsnow, congratulations. Your season opener, it was great. Now you've earned yourself the privilege to welcome everybody to the post-game interview with me the last weekend of WCS Pennant. Any thoughts, any words?
Hello, everyone. Thanks for showing up. Some fun games.
Great fans out here, eh? Great fans, Montreal. How old are you, by the way? Because we had the little opener where you showed the ages, height, and everything, and it was actually missing. So I don't know how old you are.
I'm 20 right now.
20. Wow, that young age, but you definitely kept it very cool. In the second game, it was getting a little bit weird with the drops. You didn't seem to be able to handle it. But in the third game, you came back strong and you kept it cool as a cucumber.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing the second game, but the third game was real fun. I always like playing with Swarm Hosts when you're ahead. It's always fun because you just keep getting a little more ahead each time. And yeah, he stuck in for a while, and it was making me a little nervous, but luckily I was able to close it out.
Yeah. First and third game, it looked very clinical. Smooth transitions. What's the key ingredients here?
Just not taking any damage early game and not dying to the push.
Great answers. Thank you very much for the interview. Congratulations on your advancement. Best of luck, buddy. There you go.
All right, a good win there for Jonsnow to start things off. You can see he was very clearly happy coming off the back of that one. But overall, for uThermal, that's a bit of a disaster starting his road here at Montreal, Jeff.
It is, Caleres, but I'll tell you what, there is a little tradition in these group styles of StarCraft, and that is when the good, like uThermal, a storied player, falls early like that, look for the revenge match. He'll face Dolan, who also lost to Harstem, and Jonsnow will face Harstem, where very likely Harstem gets the win there, and then all of a sudden it could be uThermal against Jonsnow again to decide who gets out of that group. It almost always happens that revenge is had.
Do you think someone like uThermal going into this group would rather go up against Jonsnow again or against Harstem, who, to be honest, he doesn't really have the best winning record historically against?
Yeah, I think you definitely prefer playing Jonsnow again. If you would ask uThermal, yeah, we might see that. It's very likely that it will happen. Obviously, like Jonsnow, a very impressive win against, like I said, a killer against Zerg. Maybe has a chance at beating Harstem as well. Jonsnow, we saw him. He was one of the few guys, actually the only guy in Challenger, previously beating Mass Carrier's army.
Right.
As I remember it. So I think he's pretty good against Protoss.
Todd, I've been to the future. I actually saw it. It's going to happen.
Yeah?
Yeah. And uThermal will win.
Oh. We defeat Skynet.
A bit of a spoiler result, and I don't like doing that. I don't like flaunting my time-traveling ways, but I'm okay doing it here. I just wanted, people should know.
Thanks.
Also the Seahawks.
For humankind.
What's that?
For humankind.
For my ego, mostly. But yeah, I'm here predicting, I'm telling you results in StarCraft matches and not, solving problems out in the world. So.
Well, Todd, you were in Petit Drogo going up against TLO. How's that series gone so far?
Yeah, so TLO beat Panda Beami and Petit Drogo beat a Protoss Pili Pili. And right now, they are playing against one another. Maybe we can take a look at the game. It's a pretty hectic moment, actually. Most of the army already died. But yeah, there was so many more Archons a second ago. Most of them have have died, and it looks like TLO might be able to take game 2 here. 11 Archons died, basically, all of them now. So TLO is going to get the equalizer. TLO, who, by the way, we didn't wait too long to get some Team Liquid team kills here in these tournaments. In Group Stage 1, he was with Mana. They both advanced, but, you know, we're getting those out of the way very early on. And
tradition here as well.
Yeah. Besides the, you know, the race going up against one another, you know, everybody has like their own race bias in StarCraft. It's regions against regions that I'm always super hyped and interested in. We just saw North America beating Europe in the previous matchup. It happens rarely, but I feel like we're going to see more and more of these as the days go by and the matchups go by as well.
There's an interesting one. Some results there. Group C, you see Game Time, who we've seen do fairly well in a previous WCS. He's in that loser match. I mean, nobody's out just yet that I can see there, but Jig, actually, who I would tell you is like the Canadian version of Game Time, a very solid, always on the ladder. You face him a super, like a macro Zerg, getting the win there. So some cool results. We'll see if they can, you know, keep it going. Like with Jonsnow, that's a big win against uThermal, but it's nothing if he just loses the next 2 matches.
The 2 players from Montreal are in the same group. That's Semper and Jig.
It's true.
And actually, I spoke with Penguin. He told me that he had nice or good openers against Jig in both games that he played against him, but Jig was just too good. So I feel like Jig is one of those very underrated guys that unless you're like from North America and you've played against, you're going to pay the right respect to, but he's one of those players with potential that could definitely surprise you and be a dark horse.
A lot of talented players here. And of course, you've got someone like Drogo, who you're currently covering, who is looking for a big result to try and move on.
I was just talking about the battle of regions. And I think I saw that our next matchup is Poland against Poland.
Yes, it is. It's going to be Seoul going up against Mana, and that's going to be happening after the break. But before we actually go to the break, don't forget, as we currently have StarCraft 2 on sale currently. And that is right, you can get yourself StarCraft 2. So if you haven't actually gone into the fantastic first-class campaign, if you haven't gone into the marvelously deep multiplayer,
sell it to us, guys.
You can try that right now for a lesser price, up until the 18th of September.
That's crazy, Claire's, because for me personally, I would spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on those 3 games, but they're selling it for a lot less, and they're even discounting it. That's a crazy, crazy deal, Todd. I'm going to buy 20 of each for myself.
What about your family? Just give them to your family.
No.
They can all come.
I'm going to keep them to myself. I'm going to stack them on the I'm going to decorate my room with just boxes of StarCraft.
That'd make a good stream background.
That would be a sick background.
Yeah,
get them signed.
Yeah. What's that?
Get them signed.
For myself?
By who? Todd?
Yeah, everybody.
I'll just sign them myself.
By Roddy and...
just sign them yourself.
A Roddy autograph could go for a cheeky, maybe a beer.
Actually. Maybe. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. It's time now to go to a break. But when we return, Poland versus Poland, Seoul goes up against Mana here at WCS Montreal.